We're here with Rabbi Avram Shmuel Levine in Tel Aviv. This is the sixth part of a wonderful interview for our program, Meaningful Interviews. We spoke about Rav Henkin, and now we'll go to your connection to Rav Moshe Feinstein, please.
Well, I was secretary of Agudas.
I'm sorry, say that
I
slow.
was secretary of Agudas, and Moshe was the president of Agudas.
But you didn't tell us, how did you go from Rav Henkin to Agudas Rabbanim?
I didn't go for it. I was, well...
In other words, you said 1969, your father got you the job.
Okay. Well, look, like I said before, as a story was on the top floor and the Agudas was on the bottom floor.
Right.
I worked on the top floor.
Right. In Manhattan, on East Broadway.
Yeah, East Broadway, right.
What was the address, remember?
235.
235.
Okay, so in 1970, 72.
Because 73 is where Rav Henkin passed away.
No, not yet. 1972, I think it was 1972 or 71, at the end of 71, that the secretary of the Agudas Rabbanim then, his name was Yaakov Hellerstein, moved to Eretz Yisrael. And Elberg needed a...
Rabbi Elberg needed
a
and
secretary.
He was like the Menahel?
He was like the head of the administrative committee.
For the Agudas Rabbanim?
Yes. And he knew me from as a story. I would write out his checks, and he was very impressed by me. So he said, maybe you want to be here half a day. So I said, okay. I asked the Levine, of course, and so that's why I became the Rabbanim.
Okay.
So every time that Elberg would decide that he needs a signature of Moshe, he would send me. And
Moshe was the president of the Agudas Rabbanim?
Yes, every time we had to come out with a kol korah or something.
Proclamation or an announcement.
The announcement, and when we needed Moshe's signature, I would go to get his signature. And
you went to Mesivta Tveres Yerushalayim?
Or to his house.
Right.
We made it to his house. I was very friendly. The Rebbetzin liked me very much. I was able to go in and out whenever I wanted. So I became very close with him then. We used to speak about so many issues. And I remember something that sticks out of my mind. You see, Moshe was a very stille Yid.
Quiet Jew.
He would come to a meeting of Agudas Rabbanim, and all the Rabbanim would speak, and
he would sit quietly.
He would sit quietly, and sort of like he was aloof, like
removed.
He was in his world,
right?
His Torah world,
right?
And like that, and you would never hear him scream at somebody or get aggravated. Because you get the impression he's a
refined person and a kind person. He had a good nature.
Yeah. So one time I came to him, to his house, for a certain, I don't remember what, it was for signature to get something. And there was a Rav there from Flatbush that wanted to make an error. Moshe was against an error
in Manhattan.
At Flatbush.
In Flatbush too.
And this Rav was for it, and he came to persuade halachically.
Right, Rav Moshe to allow it, to back it.
And they were being falcon and halacha.
Right, they were discussing it, yeah.
And he was defending his, and Moshe was defending his. And what I saw there is the mamish, the implementation or actualization of what means a raisa the mechas.
The Torah is it rages within a person in a passionate way.
Yeah, but Moshe was like, he says, no, he was. I never saw him this way.
I mean, he got all emotional.
Very emotional, very passionate and emotional.
And you never saw him like that.
Screaming and this and halacha.
Yeah.
And that made a very big impact.
Right. No, it was coming from a holy place, from a Torah place.
Definitely.
And he was against it. He still, yeah. did the Rabbonim, did they respect his, did they respect his opinion? Or
Well, the question is, he was the supreme authority.
I
He
understand.
was the last word.
Because I heard, I don't know if we discussed it before, but I heard that some of the Rosh Yeshiva felt that since he didn't really learn in a yeshiva, like Rabbi Soloveitchik and the Rebbe and Moshe didn't really learn in a yeshiva, that certain areas they didn't understand. That's what I heard.
Well, I don't know what you heard, but even if it is true, they wouldn't say it openly. They would tell it to you. They wouldn't tell it. They wouldn't say it openly.
Right.
And they would.
But you never felt that by some of the Rabbonim, rabbis.
No, Moshe, whatever. He was the Pesach Kador, and he was the last word. What he said is Azayis. And then recently there was. I saw, I think, in one of the encounter with the Rebbe, that it comes out that one time the Bochum went a Shabbos to speak Chassidus in the east side, I think of the Bialastok Shul. And when they came back, the Rebbe asked if they went in
to Reb
Moshe, because he's the Asra of the east side. And
right.
They went in, they said no. So he says that I want you to
go back
and ask Mechila.
I heard this.
Yes, ask Mechila that they didn't go into it.
Now tell me about Reb Moshe and Mi Yehudi. Anything that did he support it? Did he not support it?
Definitely supported. He wrote about this 3-4 times in his own handwriting. Most of the stuff that he had assigned, so was typed up. There were certain things that he wrote himself.
Right.
For instance, even like when he supported the Mitzvah, the Rebbe's Mitzvah.
Outreach campaigns, yeah.
So he wrote also himself 3-4 lines about the Rebbe. And Yehudi, of course, he supported it.
So you saw in so many different ways that he really respected the Rebbe.
Oh, no question about it.
And the Rebbe respected him.
Of course, it was a mutual understanding. Well, no question about it.
So now tell us about, I think, your marriage. He was your Masada Kedushin. There are pictures of it. Anything interesting to say about that? I know you had Yechidus with the Rebbe. So tell us something about that, please.
Well, you see, he came to the Masada Kedushin in 770.
Yeah.
And after the chuppah, he went in with Rav Elberg.
Yeah. Oh, with Rav Elberg together?
Yeah, he went into
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I heard this from the driver that took Rav Moshe from his house to the Rebbe and then took him back.
Oh, the Lubavitcher?
Yes, Moshe Feiglin from Australia.
Oh, he was in 770 then.
Yeah, and he took him in a Cadillac, and he said that on the way back,
Back from 770 to his house to the east side.
Rav Moshe was sitting. It was very, he was
Fatracht. He was, like thinking.
Yeah,
in thought, lost in thought.
He was lost in thought. And he, from time to time, always said,
He said over and over, he knows a lot, he knows how to learn well.
And then there's also there's YouTubes from Alex Stern, where he says that the Rebbe said, where Moshe said the world doesn't know what kind of Goyim the Rebbe is.
Right.
And you can see later on what he writes in the Shuras about the Rebbe.
Right.
And
now tell me. You told me a story, and I think it's worth repeating it.
No. I want to add something about.
Yes.
You asked me about the wedding. Oh. So the next day after the wedding, the Algemeine Journal had a big headline that Moshe meets with the Lubavitcher Rebbe, and then he came to the Rebbe's house.
Not the Rebbe's office.
The Rebbe's office. Now, this enraged the anti-Lubavitchers. And they said, well, the chutzpah is, they said, what they told me, a chutzpah is that you make Rav Moshe come to the Rebbe, not only to make the Moshe come to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe should not come to him, but you make him come at 2 o'clock in the morning to take an Elter Yid like Rav Moshe, And it wasn't 2 o'clock.
It wasn't 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right. That was 9. It was 9:45.
Yeah.
Okay. What?
Oh, your wedding was
The
your wedding was in the summer months.
No, listen. I'll show you this.
So why was it 9:45?
Listen. So he was there from 9, I think, to 9:45. Okay, listen. But so they said at 2 o'clock, and they were angry. No, so it's a mess that there's a picture. There's that Babusta picture
With label helping him putting on his coat.
If you take a look again in this picture, the Rebbe, you see an eye of the Rebbe,
Yeah, the door was open.
and then you see the clock on the Rebbe's.
On-
The
on-
clock on the Rebbe's.
Oh, you can see the time?
Table 9:45. And funny part about it was that my was always 9:30.
Yeah,
So, but since Moshe was there,
it was pushed off.
9:45. Anyway, I was told later on that don't kind of it was a tiny group.
Right.
You shouldn't pay attention to those who were criticizing.
Right. Now, I think there was a story you told me, which is worth repeating, with Rabbi Soloveitchik and Harav Shach. How would you say the story? You don't want to say the story. In a nice way, you could say the story. Go ahead. It's important. People need to hear what the opinions are. It doesn't mean that they have to agree with them. This has to do with, I think, with me, Yehudi too, right?
No. Do I have to?
You say it in a nice way. Yes, people. You don't have to say it. Say it the way it is.
Okay.
I think it's important.
Okay.
As long as it's respectful,
Okay.
This
Okay.
Talmid Chacham, disagree, whatever.
Okay. Okay. First, the background.
Yeah.
This is going back in 19.
In the 80s,
When did Moshe, Reb Soloveitchik came to the Rebbe?
in 1980, January 1980.
Yeah,
Tafshin Mem.
right. Shvat.
Shvat. Yeah, you Shvat.
Tavis before that.
You were here or you were in Eretz Yisrael?
I was there.
You were in America,
Yes.
before you moved.
Yeah. And I was still in Agudas.
Right. You moved in 82.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were in Agudas Harabanim.
Okay. And there was the month before Yud Shvat, Tavis, there was the Metzes of the convention of the Metzes of once in 7 years, I think.
Right.
They have this kinnis, the kinnis of Metzes of
Yeah, they're gathering their convention.
Okay. And this went on from Europe.
Right. It started in Europe, sure.
The organizers would always send out invitations to all the Gdolim in Chutz La'aretz, even though they knew they wouldn't come.
But out of respect.
So they would send a telegram, a bracha,
Right. They would send
And they would
their
always-
wishes.
And they would read it in front of the Olam.
Right.
That year was this Rosh Hashiva of Elberg,
Yeah.
who was known to be adamantly against
That's the Lubavitch against the Rebbe, yeah.
Rebbe, said that he's not going to allow the Rebbe. The Rebbe got an invitation and he sent back a bracha.
Right.
And they would read it. They read it all the time. So he said he would not allow.
In the past, they had read it,
He would not allow to
be read.
be read.
The convention was here in Eretz
Eretz Yisrael.
in Yerushalayim.
In Yerushalayim, yes. And he said he's not going to allow it. At the end, they did read it.
Oh, at the end, they did read it, but he said he wasn't going
It
to.
took an hour and a half, where he said no. So it's a geshushket. People started. There was gossiping. It came out, and it came out to the press. The press got a hold of it.
About what's happening.
Yeah. At the end, they read the letter.
Right.
But the press didn't know that they read it yet, so they just knew the first part, that he's not allowing it.
Right. And that's what they
They
publicized.
publicized the next day a big thing that it was a big gear covered in the Rebbe.
Yeah, it was very insulting.
Yeah. Okay. So then came Shvat, and Yud Shvat.
So, no, this convention was in Tavis.
Tavis.
Like December.
A month later.
Yeah,
A
Shvat.
month later, Shvat. It was Farbingen, the huge Shvat Farbingen, and Rabbi Yosheber came to...
Rabbi Soloveitchik came to the Farbringen
yes.
to honor the Rebbe for his 30 years of leadership.
Yes. And as you probably know, it's not already, he was misspoke.
Yeah, I was there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. The next day, Rabbi Elberg calls me. He says, listen, I have a problem with a certain rabbi who's a Rabbi Machshir. I give a hechsher on Coca-Cola, and this one wants to be sort of, I feel he's being masik vu. He wants to take it, he wants to interfere.
Right, he wants to take away the hashgacha from me.
Yeah, and I feel that the only one who has influence him is Rabbi Soloveitchik.
Because he's a graduate of his yeshiva, of Yeshiva University.
So I want you to come, and you should be an Aedis. I'm going to be speaking. You can connect me to Rabbi Soloveitchik, and I'm going to speak to him about this guy, and I want you should be an Aedis about it. I'm sorry I didn't take a tape at that time.
You didn't take a tape?
No, I didn't. Because I figured, you know what? But if I would have known what I heard later, what I did. So he says to me, okay.
So you went?
So I went. So he told me to make the connection with Soloveitchik, and he would be in the other room, talking on that phone in the other room, in one of his rooms, and I would stay here and listen. And in this room, I would be an Aedis later.
On the phone, it was a conversation on the phone, but you would listen in on another line,
exactly.
And you could hear what's the conversation.
Exactly.
So you are a witness,
testimony.
Testimony.
So I called Rabbi Soloveitchik, said, Rabbi Soloveitchik, good morning. I'm calling you on behalf of Rabbi Simcha Elberg. He wants to speak to you. She said, okay. So Rabbi Elberg says, good morning, Rabbi Soloveitchik, good morning. Good morning. And instead of going into his topic that he wanted to speak
About the Coca-Cola hechsher.
he says to Rabbi Soloveitchik, no, how do you feel about last night?
He was making conversation.
So how do you feel about last night?
Being by the Rebbe's Farbringen.
So he says, what do you mean last night? So he says, well, in Lubavitch, you were in Lubavitch. I said, what are you talking about? Wow, such an oilam. Such a big oilam. I started thinking to myself whether I should make a bracha chacham arozim.
Wow.
That's a bracha that you make when you say
600,000 Yidden.
Yeah, and you should know, Rabbi Soloveitchik says, they're all his. He's the father of the Baal Tshuva movement in America. He's the one that started it all. And it's mamish ma tainim ruchni ma. You know, I saw he started mentioning. He was reading without a paper. I can't even do it. To go on like this for an hour, 2 hours, I can't do it without a paper.
Without notes.
Yosheber was also known to speak for 2-3 hours, but he always had notes.
Right. The yard side shir.
Yeah, so I couldn't even do it. And I noticed that he mentioned certain passages, certain Maimora Mishas, and he made a mistake, and a minute later he
corrected himself.
And then he says, he knows Tanya about that.
Who said he knows about himself?
No, he said about the Rebbe. The Rebbe knows Tanya about that. He knows the Kuta Torah. And he said, what are you talking about? So Rabbi Elberg says to him, you know, you're coming now to this Rabbangan, diminished the Bekiah Bekovid, that Rosh Hashiva...
The Rav Shach insulted the Rebbe by trying to stop him from reading.
Right.
By you coming, that took away from that.
Right. He says, what are you talking about? So he says, well, he's a Rosh Hashiva and he insulted the Rebbe. He says, who insulted? So he mentioned his name. So he said, since when is he a posek? Who made him a posek?
An authority on Jewish law, on halacha.
What are you comparing him to the Rebbe? Well, I don't understand when you're saying who is Mekabel? Well, who is he? Yeah. So that ended that.
And you heard that all.
That I heard.
But you didn't tape it.
I didn't tape it, and I didn't want to say it now, but you forced me to say it.
Okay, it is what it is. And they're all Neil Emes, you know. Okay, so let's, anything more you'd like to say about Moshe, your relationship or what you saw, anything that stands out, please. Hold on.